Today we're exploring a fascinating topic that challenges our understanding of identity and history, the concept of two Israels. We'll examine two distinct identities that share the same name but represent fundamentally different realities in both historical and contemporary contexts. In our examination, we'll take a methodical approach, grounding our understanding in both historical facts and biblical scripture. This dual perspective is crucial because empirical evidence helps us better understand and validate the historical context of biblical narratives, while Scripture provides the spiritual and prophetic framework for our investigation. Before we delve deeper, it's important to understand how geographic terminology has evolved over time. What we now call the Middle East was historically known as the Near East or the Levant. This shift in terminology occurred primarily after World War I, reflecting changing political and cultural perspectives in the region. The first Israel we'll examine begins with a person, Jacob, whose transformation represents a pivotal moment in biblical history. After wrestling with an angel, Jacob received the name Israel, meaning one who struggles with God. From him came the 12 tribes, establishing the first biblical Israel as a family and then a nation bound by a divine covenant. The second Israel emerged in the modern era through three key events: the Balfour Declaration of 1917, which expressed British support for a Jewish homeland, the post-World War II reconfiguration of the Middle East, and finally the establishment of the modern State of Israel in 1948. This political entity represents a distinctly different manifestation of Israel. This brings us to two central questions. What is the true connection between the biblical Israel and the modern state? And what exactly constitutes the promised land in biblical terms? These questions are crucial for understanding both the historical and contemporary significance of Israel. Scripture provides us with three key markers for identifying Jacob's descendants: specific behavioral patterns mentioned in prophecy, the fulfillment of the scattering prophecy, and additional biblical evidence that helps us trace these lineages through history. To validate these scriptural markers, we can examine three types of empirical evidence: historical documentation from various civilizations, archival collections that have preserved important records, and oral traditions passed down through generations that often contain valuable historical insights. When we examine these prophetic markers alongside historical evidence, we find a fascinating convergence, particularly in relation to African American communities. The historical mechanisms of displacement and migration patterns align remarkably with biblical prophecies about the scattering of Israel. As we conclude, I encourage you to continue this investigation through three essential steps. First, study the scriptures carefully to understand the prophetic markers. Second, examine the historical evidence with an open and critical mind. Finally, seek spiritual discernment to understand the deeper implications of these findings. The truth about the two Israels is a journey of both historical discovery and spiritual understanding.